15 things you couldn't live without in the event of an apocalypse. Prescription lenses, reading glasses. In the event that an apocalypse were to occur sometime in the near future, you can't leave out the potential for partially blind people to survive the end of the world. They're just as likely to survive as anyone with good vision, so a good thing to keep in mind is trading with fellow survivors, and I imagine someone in dire need of vision help would trade anything away in order to see properly. I imagine there can't be many things worse than not being able to see a potential enemy or even a zombie running after you. Not only that, but everyone will be running around in an attempt to get from location to location, and reading glasses will always be a necessity for much of the same reason, reading road signs, etc. You can get the upper hand by purchasing multiple pairs of prescription lenses and reading glasses. You'll be the talk of the town for sure, even if the town is crumbling before your very eyes. 14. First aid kit. You've seen all the movies and you've probably played enough video games to understand the necessity for a first aid kit. Whether you're playing Call of Duty or Fallout, the survivors always have a surplus of first aid kits, and for good reason. Nothing is set in stone in the apocalypse, except for the fact that the world is crumbling away before your very eyes. There's a very good chance you'll run into someone equipped with the right weaponry to inflict damage on you. Having the first aid kit at your disposal will not only keep you and your surrounding survivors safe, but it'll also work as a bargaining chip to create alliances. People will do everything in their power to be the main boss of the post-apocalyptic world, and if you've got the supplies to help out in such an endeavor, you'll be part of the bigger crowd, and not so much the outcast. 13. Dried food. As clear as this item seems to be, you won't understand how seriously you require the nutrition from food until you can't walk to the nearby grocery store and get it. There will more than likely be several survivors pushing their way into the supermarkets to retrieve what is undoubtedly nearly cleared out. Furthermore, in case you're not an enormous fan of utilizing self-checkout lanes, well, now is the time to get accustomed to it. I imagine there won't be any courtesy clerks sitting around for you as you advance through the store trying to survive. People have even gone as far as to build additional rooms in their homes, and some even to the extent where they dedicate an entire cellar to food that will last almost a lifetime. You may look at them now and think it's crazy, but once doomsday comes around, you'll be begging them for food. 12. Water purifier. Purified water is pretty much a necessity regardless of whether you're in the apocalypse or not, but it becomes far more important when the only water you have surrounding you is filled with debris and human feces. A water purifier of some form is something worth investing in, even if you aren't completely set on the fact that the apocalypse could soon come to fruition. It's not only going to allow you to keep a consistent flow of clean water for the survivors in your party, but it'll also ensure that you don't bring in any sicknesses that may lie in the contaminated water as a result of whatever doomsday machinery was used during that time. Think about the Fallout games for instance. The water is contaminated with radioactivity. I don't expect us to live in a Fallout world during the apocalypse, but it's never a bad idea to prepare for something that comes very close to what our reality would look like if the apocalypse were to happen. 11. Extra clothing. It may be time to finally get rid of the old pairs of underwear and socks that you've been holding for the better part of your life. Not only should you do this every other year or so, it's also going to become a necessity if you don't have access to the shops that carry them, what with being destroyed by a doomsday machine. If you don't want to carry much, and you're satisfied with wearing the same t-shirt and jeans you're wearing now, at least do everyone around you a favor and pack some clean underwear and socks. Nobody wants to be associated with the guy who smells like butt and doesn't understand the importance of keeping your undergarments clean. I mean, fair enough if everyone else ends up smelling like butt and doesn't bother buying underwear and socks, but don't be the only guy. This is the apocalypse we're talking about. Be prepared. And smelling nice is certainly a plus. 10. Weaponry. This sort of goes alongside a later addition in the article where I talk about the necessary tools you're going to need to survive. However, more specifically, you're really going to need to set aside some weaponry that you know you can use effectively and efficiently. Having a gun on your belt at all times will allow you to not only intimidate the ill-prepared, but you'll have that much-needed sense of safety on your side. Though, when I mention tools later, the concept of making your own bullets comes into play. I mean, if you can mimic the effects of an actual bullet, but with lesser materials you find sitting around, who says they can't be effective, or at least fear-inducing? You can even go the extra mile and not bother with ammo, and just point your empty gun at someone in another camp to scare them. Then you can laugh while sitting in front of a fire at your campsite as you plan to do it at the next settlement. 9. Alcoholic beverages. Whether you're getting drunk or kicking back with the other survivors in your camp, alcoholic beverages are a must-have post-apocalypse. Even if you don't drink, alcohol can be used in many other ways in regard to trading with other settlers, or just selling it for cash. If I know anything about the apocalypse, and most of my knowledge is from video games, alcohol is generally always sought after. If you really want to go the extra mile, you'll learn how to make your own alcohol. Not only will you have an unlimited supply of alcohol flowing in your settlement camp, you'll also have more knowledge than most people. If you're for whatever reason thinking that the grocery stores will be stocked to the brim with alcoholic beverages, perhaps it is time for you to pick up a copy of Fallout 4 and see what can happen in the event that the world ends. 8. Knowledge. One thing that can be regarded as among the most important things to have during the end of the world is a wealth of knowledge. I'm not talking about a specific skill or degree or whatever. I'm talking about a general knowledge of the world and the land you will be walking on. If you think you're going to have access to clean water, accessible energy, and motor vehicles, think again. We as a people take for granted how easy everything is, and in the event that it was all taken away, we'd be sitting ducks trying to wipe our own butts. I'm not saying we're dumb either, so don't look at me like that. All I'm saying is that a general education in a variety of skills can go a long way. The unfortunate thing is, in the event that the apocalypse happens, it's kind of late to be thinking about furthering your education. Best take the time now while you can to get that brain working at full capacity. 7. Backpack. While I imagine this one is an obvious inclusion, you won't get anywhere fast in the apocalypse without a backpack or something to put all your stuff in. If survival games have taught us anything, it's that you're going to need a nice big backpack to hold everything you find on your travels. Whether you're exploring by yourself, or with the group of people you associate yourself with, there's no doubt you're going to find some interesting things on your way. Hell, it's probably better to travel with a group, especially if all of you have backpacks with you. The more you can carry in the apocalypse, the more you can bring to the local man-made shop to sell your items, and the more success you'll have in surviving the end of the world. And this also goes alongside the knowledge aspect. If you can create your own backpack out of materials you find on your travels, you're golden. 6. Maps. No, you won't have access to Google Maps on your smartphone, so throw that idea right out the window. We're talking about the apocalypse here, so if you're planning to have an unlimited supply of battery power to power your smartphone, well, you're not only better off than everyone else, but you'll constantly have the upper hand in most ways. If you don't have access to that type of power, however, it's probably a good idea to stock up on some maps in your local area. If you're not sure if you can find them, just go online and search on Google for a local map, and print it out. I know this may seem crazy and unnecessary, but we have to remember that electronics, like everything else in life, are so easily accessible. Put yourself into the shoes of yourself when the power goes out. Now, imagine that, but permanently. It's not an easy way to live life, but with the right preparation, it's like the world never ended. Minus the dead atmosphere, of course. 5. Toolbox with tools. You don't want to be caught unprepared in your settlement camp, do you? Even if you have access to a nice backpack, or if you think you're not susceptible to danger in the apocalypse, you may want to rethink some things. A backpack could tear and break open, and suddenly all your items are on the floor for the taking. A set of tools and a nice toolbox will become a must-have, and if you're unprepared, you'll end up paying out the butt for it. Best prepare now and set aside some tools that you know you're going to need. Wrenches and screwdrivers are one thing, but also set aside some sewing kits, some really strong tape, and perhaps some ways to make bullets. The last one is wishful thinking, but you never know what you're capable of until you are running for your life. Hell, if you can make bullets for a gun you find in your travels, you're better off than most. 4. Radio. If losing power in our homes for a long period of time has taught us anything, it's that the more silence that surrounds the house, the worse things get. Of course, I'm aware that this sort of falls into the same category as smartphones, but luckily there are radios and CD players that don't need an unlimited amount of battery life to remain functional. Even if you tune it to NPR or a local radio station, hearing someone talk, whether it's to you or indirectly, is insurmountably better than dead silence. I've lived alone for some time recently, and when the power went out, I would have killed to have a radio sitting there, if only just to have some type of sound in the background. Coincidentally, even while I'm working today, I have music playing. Such a straightforward idea of sound in the background gets so underestimated that it's difficult to imagine what it'd be like without it. 3. Soap. For the love of God, you don't want to be known as the guy people stay away from because of your stench, do you? Hell, there are people that somehow manage to be that guy in the world today. Even with full accessibility of soap-based items, homeless people are the exception. In today's day and age, there's absolutely no excuse for smelling like garbage, but somehow people manage to do it. In the event of an apocalypse, however, it's much more applicable and understandable why someone would smell the way they do. With the dirty air surrounding the world to the disgusting food-based items going bad, it'd be nearly impossible to escape it. That's why you need to pack some soap-based items in your doomsday package. Even if it sits there for years on end, you're going to wish you had it when the day comes that you don't have free access to it. Trust me, people are going to be begging for soap when they realize how bad they smell. 2. Notebook. Whether the end of the world will see some sort of light in its future, or if it's the end for all of us, you're gonna want to document it whenever possible. Video games have done this, in the way that the character documents or notes everything they see. Why must the concept be different in real life? It'd be best to pack a notebook with you, or something that you can write on. I mean, you don't even really have to write anything. You could just use it as a place to draw out your feelings. If you don't have access to a radio or human interaction, art can be a place for you to escape the hardships of the end of the world. Plus, if websites like The Richest in particular somehow escape the danger of the end of the world, you'll be able to continue writing articles for them. 1. A friend. Perhaps the absolute most important thing you're going to need in the apocalypse is somebody you can bounce ideas around with. Someone that understands you in and out. Somebody that will happily supply items you don't have. A friend. You may think being alone is a lot of fun and you prefer to stay away from human interaction, but in the apocalypse, everybody is going to have at least one person they can count on, or even a group. You don't want to be cast aside and known as the guy nobody wants to be around. Surround yourself with good people now, and in the event that the end of the world makes its debut, you'll be happy you know the good people you know now. And of course you'll be happy you separated yourself from the bad people. Because they may end up being the people you get into a one-on-one duel with for the last can of peas in the nearly destroyed grocery store.